Today we're going to be looking at the production possibilities curve, or the PPC, which is our first graph we see in AP Macro. The production possibilities curve is a graph that shows the maximum combination of goods that can be produced with a certain amount of resources. So here's the skeleton of the PPC. On the y-axis, we have the quantity of good A that's been produced, and on the x-axis, we have the quantity of good B that's been produced. So the most common PPC that you're going to see is when the graph is kind of curved out like a bow. And this is because of increasing opportunity cost. As you make more of one good, you give up more and more of another. And this is because resources are not perfectly interchangeable. Now here's a good example. On the y-axis, we have the quantity of missiles produced, and on the x-axis, we have the quantity of corn produced. These are two goods whose resources are not interchangeable. To make corn, you need fertilizer, soil, and farming stuff like that. But to make missiles, you need metal, engines, fuel, anything like that. So the resources cannot be swapped. Let's say we're a business who can only make missiles and corn. At first, we're mainly making missiles with a little bit of corn on the side. So that's going to be the dot that I placed just now on the left. A high quantity of missiles produced with a low quantity of corn. But now I decide I want to produce more corn. So at first, this trade-off's pretty small. I'm only going to lose 5 missiles to make 20 more units of corn. So this is the dot I placed now. I shift to the right. I shift the amount of corn to the right. I'm producing more corn, and I decrease the amount of missiles just a little bit. But let's say I want to make even more corn. So I want to produce 20 more units of corn. Now I have to lose 15 more missiles. And that's that little dot I just placed now. So as you can see, there's increasing opportunity cost. The more I produce of one good, the more I give up of the other. And this is because I only have a fixed amount of resources, right? So I'm moving my missile experts and my missile machines over to agriculture, and they're not as good at farming. They're not as efficient at farming. Now, let's look at a different situation. This is called constant costs, another variation of the PPC. This is where resources are equally good at making either product. Let's pretend we're making apples and we're making corn. First, we're going to start at 15 apples and 5 corn. Since we're making more apples than corn, we're going to be further up on the y-axis and further left on the x-axis. Then, how about I want to produce more corn? So I'm going to move to 10 corn and 10 apples. It's still 20 total, but I've decreased the amount of apples, shifting us down on the y-axis, and increased the amount of corn, shifting us right on the x-axis. Then let's say I want to produce even more corn. We're going to move to 15 corn and 5 apples, shifting us even more right. But it's still 20 goods total. So each time we add 5 corn, we give up 5 apples. The trade-off stays the same. This is called constant opportunity cost. Why? Because every resource, every worker, every machine, all the soil, all the fertilizer is just as good as making apples than it is making corn. There's no extra penalty for switching like there is in the increasing opportunity cost graph with missiles and corn. Let's look at the individual points on the PPC. If the point is on the curve, it is efficient. All resources are being fully used. A point inside the curve means that we're wasting resources. This is inefficient. Maybe there's some sort of unemployment, so we can't produce at full capacity. A point outside the curve is unattainable unless we get more resources or better tech, which we're going to see here in a minute. Now, let's look at the changes in the PPC. First, when the whole line or bow kicks out, this means there is growth. we have a better ability to produce. Now, if the whole line or bow comes inwards, this is the opposite of growth. We can no longer produce the same amount of goods at any point on the graph. Finally, if only one end of the graph kicks out, this means there's an increase in technology. There's some technological advancement that increases production for one specific good, not both. All right, thanks for watching. If y'all understand that, that's pretty good, because I gotta say, for me, when I was learning this originally, this was probably one of the harder things in AP Macro to understand. So if you're learning it for the first time and you understood this well, then you're on track to learn the rest pretty easily. 1.3 is out, by the way.